need some 25-year-old guys that are read these cards for me. That's what I need. I need glasses for real. Go ahead, Mr.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm glad to be here. I'm a citizen of Chicago and a taxpayer that I have no rights. The police do not work in the 2nd District. When they are not bullying, they just don't show up. And so that's a problem. And as a homeowner, if I call the police, my gate is kicked down. They say, oh, well, that's not that expensive, so we'll take that over the phone. A BB gun shot my window out Christmas Eve. We have to take that over the phone. That's not that important. Building next door was vacant and then had been robbed. 4 morbidly obese cops showed up after 2 hours and we called them 8 times. I'm a taxpayer. 40% of my taxes go to you. What am I getting for it? IPRA, forgive me, is a joke. I was sexually assaulted by a cop to put me in my place because I'm an old woman. It wasn't about me being cute. It was about me being black and needed to be put in my place. I complained to IPRA. I went before the police 3 times. I had 5 witnesses. The police harassed my witnesses. They were seniors. This shouldn't happen. I'm a taxpayer. I get nothing for my money. Nothing at all. And that is a problem. The police cannot have the right to govern themselves. When a police officer, and I mean kind, when one does behave badly, he doesn't need to get 2nd, 3rd chances. The next could be a multiple murder. They need to be gotten rid of. Chicago is a city that is proud of its racism, and many of those are wearing a badge. It is unfortunate. I walk down the street, and I work for Southside Together, Organizing for Power. We have worked for 7 years. We've worked 7 years to keep public mental health clinics open, and what we know is that the Chicago Police Department should be enforcing the right to have public mental health clinics open so it can serve the police officers as well as the citizens of Chicago. Thank you.
Folks that are just arriving, there are some seats up here in the front, and we'll add some to the back so that you can sit.
And also, if you're just arriving and you have not received a card, if you'd like to make a comment, raise your hand and we'll make sure you get a card. Oladapo, is Oladapo here? Oladapo, come to the podium, make a comment. Also have a comment from Dan Ewing. Dan Ewing says, I have sat in restorative justice peace circles with police officers, and I believe that we become a community over the time we spend together. Please allow more opportunities for officers and community members to open up dialogue through restorative justice peace circles. Agree to that.
Distinguished panel, ladies and gentlemen, my people say, if you see a big man and you're telling him your load is skewed when he's having load on his head, he tells you, look at my foundation. Because he's lame, that is why the load is skewed. Police was formed in this country because of runaway slaves. Now, slavery is over, Jim Crow is over, we have a black president now. Police should know how to conduct themselves decorumly. Now, I have an experience with the police. I was working as a supervisor at that time at Navy Pier. This guy came, parked his car by himself, and then when he was leaving, he ruptured his car. And then he wanted, because of that, to get out free. I said, I can't do that. Now he called the police came, so, the guy beckoned to me, I went to him, and then when I came back, the guy asked me, what did he say? I told him, well, he said, you should pay your bills. But the police didn't say that, but I wanted to collect the money. Well, the police told me when I read there, what the fuck is going on there? Why should you delay the man? I told him right off, this is a gross violation of protocol, number 1. Number 2, I'm old enough maybe to be your father or your grandfather, and I walked away. So as I walked away, he came back, and that time I have a police emblem on my car, one by the Lord of the Police, one by the Chicago Police. So I support police. So when he came to me, do you work for the come and relieve me. He thought maybe I was doing something else. So he came, he was struggling with the phone because I dialed 911 to report him. I didn't know that once I dialed 911, the police officer can't move away anymore. So we were there, you know, give me your hand, he handcuffed me. But anyway, he took to the police station.
15 seconds.
I was fingerprinted, but what happened when I got off was I wrote Phil Klein, he was the superintendent at that time, and I made sure I sent a copy of the letter I sent to Phil Klein to the president of the Fraternal Order of Police, who was DNAinfo at that time, and let him know henceforth I'm going to stop supporting you. You don't have to do that to another human being. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
TC McCoy, come on up, and I have a comment by Anonymous here. Why are you, the police board, allowing the files of abusive police officers to continue to be destroyed? That is the comment by Anonymous.
Good evening, sir. Good to see you again.
Good evening. This is very important here tonight. In 1996, 7 officers were arrested on the west side of Chicago. What was labeled the biggest corruption case in the city of Chicago, known as Austin 7. Michael Hope used some criminals from the community to impersonate police officers. There's a sergeant in the 5th District named Herb Brown Jr. who participated in this robbery. In the year 2000, one of the gentlemen named Philip K. Edwards did a murder. He also participated in the robbery of an MVI agent on December 8, 1995. He was arrested on November the 11th, year 2000, by a detective named David March. For the people who are here right now who do not know the name David March is the gentleman who just cleared Mr. McDonald. He cleared Van Dyke from killing the gentleman, the young boy out south. As a detective, he cleared that case, saying that there was a justifiable shooting. When he arrested Mr. Philip K. Smith, Mr. Philip K. Smith told him, if you prosecute me for this case, I'm going to tell about the Austin 7 because those 7 officers are in jail illegally and we were the ones who did the crime. I went down to the police department about 3 weeks ago to talk to people in R&D, and they told me they were going to take on my complaint. But you're going to take this complaint. Let me tell you how deep this is. I work 19 hours, 24 hours a day to bring these slug policemen to justice. IAD has been kicking the can down the road since 2000 when I brought it to them. They threatened to fire me.
15 seconds.
But I didn't let them fire me because they knew I had them. Mr. David March and 7 other people allowed this criminal to walk the streets of Chicago for the last 19 years. And he's on the north side of Chicago right now, a murderer in the black community, so that they would reveal that this case is as big as the LaQuan McDonald case. I think, like I told you the last time, we got to quit playing. Because if you don't quit playing, I think this meeting we have here tonight going to be the last one. We're going to have a burned city in a few minutes. You have a nice night.
Really kind here. Really kind. Step on up. I have another anonymous comment. And Lori, you kind of touched on this. Why are police so angry when they see black people? Commenter wants to know. Why don't police try to de-escalate issues when they come in our areas? You talk about the issue of de-escalation.
Good evening, sir.
Police need to be trained in what is called implicit bias, socialized implicit bias. That leads to racism. Second comment, did you realize that the police are called to every emergency room death? Whether the person is 1 or 100, they spend 45 minutes to an hour in the emergency room taking a report, call a medical examiner, then have the medical examiner call back. It is the greatest waste of time and income I have ever seen. They're there, the person literally is 101 years old and died of natural causes. The police are there. Thirdly, my concern is about this very board. I don't see any ordinary people here who aren't representing anybody. Where is somebody's mother or father? Where is somebody's grandfather sitting on this very board? As I see you all represent something or somebody else, nothing against you, but I don't see my father like me who has 2 young teenagers who he's worried about sitting there to send a report back to the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Also, Rose Joshua is from the south side of NAACP, and she has a comment. Rose is in the house. Rose Joshua.
Thank you very much.
And before Rose gets her comment in, this one from Michelle Hoffman. Michelle says, how will you assist local groups in providing fun and safe, engaging programs for youth? What are the collaborative efforts between the police and the community? And that's why we're here, to create that conversation and that dialogue, you guys. Rose Joshua.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rose Joshua, and I am the president of the Chicago Southside branch of the NAACP, the oldest branch in the United States. I want to thank the Police Accountability Task Force for the job that it has to do. I also want to thank the Chicago Urban League for putting on and hosting this event. And one other thank you goes out to Winona Redmond, who actually helped me in terms of letting me know about the process. You don't know this, but I am a second-generation NAACP leader. And the mission of the NAACP, that is the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, is to ensure the political, educational, social, and economic equality of all persons, and to eliminate race-based discrimination. At the outset, I state the following. The NAACP Chicago Southside branch adopt the comments made by our sister branch of the NAACP, the Chicago West Side. The NAACP Chicago Southside branch respectfully disapprove the creation by the office of the mayor a police accountability task force, which I know is not independent and separate from the office of the mayor. Therefore, the NAACP Chicago Southside branch declined hosting this event along with the Chicago Urban League on the south side of Chicago. Further, we will withhold our comments until this task force makes its recommendation on March 31st, 2016, its recommendation to the mayor of the city of Chicago. A couple of notes. Yes, Laquan McDonald was shot and killed by a Chicago police officer. December 2014, there was a report submitted to the mayor and the city council with recommendations regarding preventing police misconduct and discipline. What happened in the last 2 years to those recommendations? Were they ever instituted? Working groups.
15 seconds.
Okay. Working groups of a task force, community and police relations. We think that, and excuse me, may I have 1 minute to finish? Because I have 13 seconds. I would like 13 minutes another minute.
Could you make it 30, Rose? Only in order to be fair to everybody.
I understand, and I'm coming to my conclusion. Okay. the working groups, community and police relations, the Caption program, community alternative policing. It should be revamped. There should be, as a part of Caption program, a victims of crimes department, and then there should be a station adjustment. Legal oversight, accountability. The purpose of that particular working group is to determine what laws that are preventing the rejuvenation of the police department. Well, we are fighting and advocating for the Local Records Act to be amended so that we can keep records of misconduct of police officers so that they can be reviewed. The mission of this task force is to lay the foundation to rejuvenate the trust between the community and the police. Well, you are assuming that there is trust. Laying the foundation must be inclusive of the principles that are just and fair. Diversity in decision making, not only in background, culture, and ethnic.
Ms. Joshua, David, I think everybody agrees with Attorney Rose Joshua Southside, NAACP. Adrian Ermer, in the house is Adrian here. All right, Adrian, come on up. And I've got a comment from Anonymous. And don't take this personally, panel members. Why isn't there any young Black and Latino men or women on the task force? Why isn't it public record police that have excessive amounts of complaints against them, as well as actions taken to rectify the officers? Why is everything so top secret with IG? How do we know if anything at all has been done when IG investigates? It's a trust issue, of course, which is part of these meetings.
Why don't we let
I'll respond to that, the IG, I'll respond to that. We put everything up online. Read the newspaper today, you will see things that we've done. Read the newspaper yesterday, you will see things that we've done. We are profoundly transparent relative to the history of this city with respect to oversight, and that is one of the reasons that I am here, is that we have a fundamental deficit with respect to oversight of public safety in the police department, and everyone on this panel agrees with that, and that is why we're here, and it is why it is so important to hear from you.
Good evening, ma'am.
Hi. I'm going to admit I'm full-on skeptic right now, but as a lifelong Chicagoan, I've seen a lot of toothless tigers of task forces come and go. But I'm going to reserve that skepticism until March 30th. I stand before you tonight as a citizen of Chicago, lifelong Chicagoan, as somebody with deep love and concern for my community. And I also stand before you as a surviving family member of my cousin Paul Garrett, who was murdered on the south side of Chicago in 2010. The police told my family that because the witnesses didn't have anything, did not want to come forward and say anything, that there was nothing that they could do. The community code of silence is a direct response to the police code of silence and a very deep distrust of the system and an entity in the city that polices us as if we are instantaneously guilty, and it's wrong. I stand before you today because the city has paid almost $1 billion in restitution money and law and settlement fees to folks straight out of taxpayers' coffers. So not only are we paying the salaries of the police that mispolice us, we're paying for their mistakes as well, directly. That's $250 million, $750 million that could have been paid towards the Chicago public school system to educate our children so they can actually. And it's money that could have been paid towards other services like reinvesting in communities that are falling apart. As a city, I stand before you today because I was raised with some real good sense. And when I was when I was in school as a child, I witnessed one of my classmates throw something at the teacher. She turned around and said, "Who threw that?" And I said, "Nobody said anything." She said, "All right, well, I'm going to give you all extra homework until somebody messes up who did this." And you know what? Instantaneously, we pointed out that bad habit. So you mentioned incentives, and I have an idea. I have not, investigated the legality or the feasibility of it because the police union is a big, big bully. But I say this, if the police can come into our community and instantaneously see us as guilty, then I suggest that a portion of their paychecks every pay period comes out and goes into a fund so that it can offset the cost of lawsuits that are filed against the city and for police misconduct. I also suggest that if a good cop is a good cop all year long, they can have their money back. But at the end of the day, the taxpayers cannot continue to front the bill for bad officers. We need officers pointing out the bad officers.
Thank you, Ms. Herbert. Excellent comment. Next comment comes from the clerk of the Circuit Courts of Cook County, the Honorable Dorothy Brown, in the house, everybody.
Good evening. I'm Dorothy Brown, clerk of the Circuit Court of Cook County, and I also sit on the Illinois Law Enforcement Training Board. And I want to thank Chairman Lightfoot and the task force for police accountability, and of course the citizens of Chicago for giving me this opportunity to provide recommendations of reforms to improve the Chicago Police Department system, oversight, accountability, and training. Proper oversight will come in the form of choosing, first of all, the best person for the job of Chicago Police Department Superintendent. I've recommended choosing a person of strong conviction, someone who will not just go along to get along with the status quo. Foremost, the person charged with managing the CPD must come prepared with an effective plan that includes well-developed strategies for creating a culture of accountability and providing specified and effective training for members of the police boards. The Independent Police Review Authority, IPRA, is charged with holding the CPD accountable. Yet the public must trust that IPRA will do its job with fairness and transparency. I've recommended that Mayor Rahm Emanuelwill select Mr. Lorenzo Davis, former supervisor investigator for IPRA, as a permanent chief administrator or first deputy chief of staff of IPRA, because Davis has already demonstrated that he is fair, independent-minded, and unafraid to speak up for what he believes is right for the people of Chicago. Proper training is key to ensuring safer communities for all citizens. Training can play a critical role in reducing the impact of subconscious bias on the behavior of police officers. Research has found that individuals who are made aware of their implicit biases are motivated and able to implement controlled behaviors. Recent events point to the need for using tools that help officers recognize their conscious and implicit bias and implement controlled and biased behavior responses, especially at scenarios that are at greatest risk of manifesting biases, such as traffic stops, 911 emergency calls, domestic situations, and other procedures. Installing the best possible leadership, empowering the Police Review Authority to be honest and candid in its findings, and implementing continuing sensitivity training for law enforcement are the best avenues for bringing lasting reforms to the Chicago Police Department. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Dorothy Brown, everybody, clerk of the Circuit Courts of Cook County. Eric Russell, please come to the microphone, and I'll read this comment from Virginia Newman. Virginia says, will the city police go back to community policing where we know the officers by name, policing your neighborhoods and street? And in quotation marks, she has officer-friendly. Community policing has been a common theme among the cards that I'm reading here. And Virginia's from the 7th Ward.
Good evening, Mr. Russell. Thank you for coming again.
Good evening. My name is Eric Russell. insurance executive for Midwest Life, social justice activist, as well as a community organizer. What I really, and as of December 26th, like I said before, I had the unenviable task of being the spokesperson for the Betty Jones family. I want to elaborate on the horror of Betty Jones being gunned down by the Chicago Police Department and various people that swore an oath to protect her. But what I would like to elaborate on is the fact about respectful engagement. I think that's one of the keys, because at this point, we are well beyond systemic racism. We are well beyond institutional racism. It seems as if the Chicago police doesn't have any respect for our humanity. My grandmother seen this evil face when she stared in the eyes of Bull Connor. This evil face was the last face that Fred Hampton and Mark Clark seen. This evil face, our community seen it during the reign of terror with Burgess. What I really want to say is this. If our children, we defend their right to wear hoodies and let their pants sag. If they never put on a Brooks Brothers suit, we will not let you kill them. We defend our children's right to lock their hair, to wear braids. If they never get a crew cut or a fade, we will not let you kill them. If our children continue to choose Lil Wayne and Drake over Ralph Ellison and W.B. Du Bois, we will not let you kill our children. That's right. The last thing that I want to say about respectful engagement, Betty Jones's daughter lay with her mother in a pool of blood, and she looked up at the police officer and said, "Why did you do this to my mother?" And the police officer's response was, "Your mother's dead, get over it." That's a matter of record. Look at the lawsuit. I'm not embellishing anything. The mayor called us from Cuba the day Betty Jones was executed. I know that's not the narrative that's coming out of City Hall. They said accident, they use a lot of euphemisms a lot of days. I watched Betty Jones' children on their hands and knees cleaning up their mother's blood. The mayor of the police department did not even send somebody to clean up their blood. But today, I was in Gage Park at the Martinez vigil. The ASFAT team was there. The house was brand new and was going on the market the next day. But they left Betty Jones' children in a pool of blood because they have no respect for our community.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Carolyn Johnson, please give way to the microphone, please. I'll read another comment from Maya Baker. How is the task force funded? Do you have proper funding to be effective? This is a question from Maya.
We are funded by a number of foundations here in the city of Chicago. We are not taking any taxpayer dollars, and all of us are volunteers. Good morning. Good evening, ma'am.
Ms. Johnson.
Hello, my name is Carolyn Johnson.
Turn your mic on, please. Go ahead.
My name is Carolyn Johnson, and I'm here, first of all, I do want to thank the Mayor Emanuel for apologizing to our tortured children that he didn't have to do. He tried to clean up somebody else's mess. But my son was 13 years old, and he was tortured. And I'm probably not supposed to speak about this because they want to sweep it under the rug, but it's hard. I'm a mother. That was my firstborn. He was a child, not a terrorist and not a gang member. He was 13 years old, sitting with 3 adults and 4 children playing on the corner when James O'Brien, badge 8825, took him out of my hands and told me they was taking him for a questioning for a shooting. And I couldn't go with him. I was young, didn't know no better, didn't have no one to stand beside me to teach me what was right and what was wrong. And then these same detectives, this was 1991, after I learned, after they did what they did to my child and made him confess to a murder that he didn't do, beat him, electric shocked him, 13 years old. 13 years old. These are detectives that we are supposed to protect us. These same detectives, Kenneth Boudreaux, badge number 17998, they are still on the force. This happened in 1991. When I did my research, this went all the way back to 1972. These officers should have been, they have patterns, more than 3, 5, 6, 10, 13. My son is in jail, in prison, for 46 years for the same 2 detectives that was involved in this torture. In 1998, it could have been avoided. And these officers still on the force this day. They use gang members and coerce, threaten, and force them to testify against my son because they wanted to retaliate on me because birds was fired and these detectives was in trouble. And I sued, wish I didn't know no better, thought these attorneys was in my child's best interest. And I let them do the work. And my baby is in jail again because of these same detectives for a crime he did not commit. I'm asking you all to please, Mr. Mayor Emanuel, let these torture victims go that are under Burge and his detectives who are still in prison. And these detectives that are still working and the ones that are locked up because of these detectives, they need to be fired and they need to be held accountable for what they have done to our children. And please, could y'all free my child and the rest of the ones that are still languishing in jail for torture, for crimes that they did not commit. My child is
Maurice Brown, would you come to the podium, please? Maurice Brown here.
Yeah, I'm here.
Maurice Brown, I have another comment, anonymous. What consideration has been given to the Attorney General's suggestion that the Department of Justice investigate the Chicago Police Department? When does the police union contract expire? That's, I think, an agenda item that should be a priority. Every voter in the city of Chicago is making sure when you vote next time that you're concerned about this fraternal order police contract that is protecting some of the officers that we are talking about here. Maurice Brown.
Before you start, please, just 2 questions. Back in December, the Department of Justice announced it was opening up what's called a pattern and practice investigation.